April 5th, 2021. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it's being held at City Hall, Council Chambers, 101 South Main Street, Joshua, Texas. And I'm going to go ahead and get us started here, announcing that we do have a quorum present tonight. And then we'll move on to Citizens Forum. The Planning and Zoning Commission invites citizens to speak on any topic. However, unless the item is specifically noted on this agenda, the Planning and Zoning Commission is required under the Texas Open Meeting Act to limit its response to responding with a statement of specific factual information, reciting the city's existing policy, or directing the person making the required inquiry to visit the city staff about the issue. No commission deliberation is permitted. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. I know there's quite a few of you here to speak tonight on one of the items that's on our agenda. We will be holding a public hearing regarding that, so you're more than welcome to speak now, or when we have opened the public hearing in just a few minutes, I will ask for all those who are in favor and against to come up and speak. So if you'd like, we can do that in just a minute. So if there's anybody here to speak on anything that's not listed on the topic, I'm assuming everybody's here for the zoning request. But if there's anybody else that wants to speak on anything else now, we can do that. Okay. We'll move on to action C, discuss, consider, and possible action on the meeting minutes for March 9th, 2021 meeting. Everybody have a chance to look over the minutes? Yes, sir. You start. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the names.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Malden. Got a second? Second. All those in favor? Okay. All right. Action letter D. We're going to open up a public hearing. It is 6:32. The public hearing regarding a request to rezone and tract of land of the Eli M. Thompson survey, abstract number 827, TR 52, County of Johnson, Texas, and being approximately 46.040 acres of land and locally known as 1200 County Road 909, changing the zoning to the foregoing property from agricultural district to the planned development district to allow for a residential subdivision. I'll turn it over to the staff for their presentation.
Okay, the approximate 46-acre tract of land has never been platted and has been zoned and used for agriculture with a single-family residence located on the property. This property is zoned the agricultural district. The proposed development of this property is to allow for a planned development of approximately 155 single-family lots and 3 open spaces to be served by standard curb and gutter residential streets. A homeowners association will maintain the open spaces as well as the entry sign. The applicant is requesting a planned development district and is meeting most of the requirements of the R1 zoning district with the exception of the lot width as detailed in the zoning requirement comparison table shown in their proposal. The requirements of a detailed site plan includes specific information related to engineering such as drainage and other transportation related issues. Because the property requires to be final platted, the city has agreed that these matters may be part of the preliminary and final platting review process. This request appears to be the minimum requirements as set forth in the subdivision ordinance, and staff recommends approval of the plan development and detailed site plan.
Okay. Thank you. And do we have an owner present that would like to speak on behalf of this?
Yes. Name is Courtney Coates with Topographic. Generally speaking, it's a pretty straightforward development, similar to what you guys have seen on Cattle Road that is being developed now. We're out near the high school. 3 open space lots that encompass the detention, a couple others that are opened up for community use. There's a pavilion that'll be on one of them, parking areas so that the residents can use them for the birthday parties and whatever it may be. It's where the majority of the trees on the site are located. There's one of them that's like a 62-inch diameter oak tree. It's up in that neck of the woods. We're saving the trees up there and trying to do that kind of thing with it. But otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward development. There's nothing especially difficult or unique. The lots are virtually the same size as your minimum lots in an R1 district. Really, as Aaron said, the only difference we're looking for is lot width to fit in there. You know, some of the parcels in there are longer because of some lay of the land and some easements that go with it. So they get some larger lots and make that kind of thing in there. Otherwise, that's really all there is there, unless you guys have some questions for me.
The only variance you're gonna have are larger lots, not gonna be smaller lots. It's not gonna be small.
No, there's a couple of them that'll be smaller than the 10,000 square foot minimum that are in the R1, but the majority of them, or at least a good portion of them, based on the table that was presented to you guys, is that same size or very close to that 10,000 square foot.
Any other questions? We might have some more after we have some discussion. but,
Yeah, I have a question. I need to understand why the request for variance of 15 feet on the minimum size is justified in this development.
Because of the size of the lots themselves, the square footage and the encumbrance on the property, the reduction from 75 to 60 makes the site usable as far as that goes. Otherwise, the lots are huge. They end up being a 1/3 acre or larger in there, and it's straightforward with you. It's not financially viable to build that size. It's not what is able to really be marketed and sold effectively right now, with the amount of people aren't looking for large lots to maintain. They're not looking for large lots to purchase because the price of the lot is way up and the houses are already fairly expensive. So the majority of the home buyers that we're experiencing right now in the market are looking for a larger home on a smaller lot. They want to spend their time enjoying their pool and their house and everything that comes with that, and not mowing the lawn. And so it's mostly meeting market demand. Some of the benefits of that is that the amount of taxable revenue that comes to the city of Joshua, as well as the sales tax that comes from the additional residents living there, are significantly higher than if you had fewer lots.
I mean, you're gonna have to have that.
What's that?
I mean, you'll have to have that variance you're talking about.
The whole PD is looking
The whole thing.
for the whole thing, similar to the cattle road that is zoned like that, and those behind the high school, that size of lot. I mean, it's that size of lot.
So 60 feet is on living standards.
That'll be the minimum. There are several of them that are larger than that by a few feet, 5, maybe 7 feet. There's none that are 80 feet or anything in there like that. They're all somewhere in that 62 to 68 size range.
So you knew ahead of time, though, that our planning, that our zoning ordinance had these minimums in place, and you brought the plan requesting for 20% less. If it's not viable, you feel it's not financially viable for you as a developer to meet those standards, even though we have other developments.
Well, similar to like Caddo Roads, it has the 60-foot by 120-foot lot that recently came through here. That's what is desirable. So yeah, we know that your R1 is at the 75-foot lot. We looked at the R2, which is significantly smaller, that we could have requested and met some of this, but they're much smaller lots. So doing a PD that gives you guys the ability to say, all right, we got the open space, we're requiring this type of landscape, this type of entrance, this type of lighting, seemed to be a better option than just saying we want a straight up R2 with 0 lot lines and a significantly smaller lot. So as opposed to going something that was way smaller and then building larger, we're going with something that has a base zone with fairly good requirements, and then asking for the only variance to be lot width.
I have a question. Has TxDOT been contacted or talked with on County Road 909?
County Road 909 is a county road, so no. Tech stuff doesn't have jurisdiction on county road.
Okay. I'm concerned with the size of that road and adding an additional average, say each home has 2 vehicles. You're looking at adding another 300 to 320 vehicles trafficking that road.
Well, I suspect right now what we're looking for is the zoning side of stuff. Those will all have to come through with the preliminary plat and final plat. We won't be allowed to, by city ordinance or anybody else's ordinance, build anything less than what will serve the area. So when it comes to the construction plans and the plat, then what's required will be what's required. So if additional road width is through there and improvements, we already know that we're gonna have to improve everything across the front of our property to the collector size frame. And so we'll meet Joshua City requirements, and that's what the requirement is there for.
Thanks, sir. Any other question on that?
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right, and is there anybody else in favor that would like to speak on this tonight? And those who are against, I would say, you have Sandra Hammonds. Like to come up?
My property will touch this property. I have property here and that property goes here. I am concerned with trespassers because we have a large stock tank. We're concerned with, we have cattle. That's a lot of people. We're concerned with the amount of vehicles on that 909. I drive that 909 just as rarely as I can because it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. My daughter has relatives back behind us, and they come in, they go out. They don't go down 909. You cannot get 2 vehicles side by side going the correct speed limit and passing out without one of them having to go into the ditch area. You just can't do it. I'm concerned with my neighbor behind us. The plots, from what I understand, are going to back up right to her fence. And she's going to have all these backyards right to her fence. Okay. I'm concerned about the electricity. We didn't have electricity for several days, or we had to reduce our amount of electricity for several days, for 10 days in the month of February. You're going to put 153 more houses in the area. Are they going to build a great big transformer that's going to accommodate that electricity? So if we have higher heat or lower cold, is there going to be electricity to support us, much less another 153 houses? I had to close my business, a business here in Joshua, up on 174. I closed for 10 days because of electrical. My grandson lost a week worth of work. He works for a company down in Cleveland because of electrical. Y'all are already building multiple houses across the street on 917 from us. That's causing all kinds of problems on our road. We're supposed to get a turn lane in there, but the way Texas Highway Department goes, there's no telling where it's going to be in there. But on 909, your minimum 300 cars are going to be going down that road. Then you got families that have teenagers, and they don't drive the speed limit, especially if they're out on the county road when nobody's around, mom and dad's back home. They just don't do it. So I'm really concerned with, that's farm. we drive our tractors out there. And we're gonna have these teenagers speeding around us and, you know, people are all kinds of people are back there, they do, hay. Have the hay up on their tractors to pull. And I just think that more infrastructure, I guess is the word, needs to be addressed. Electricity, the road, the crowds. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the list is Sherry Warren. And if you would, just when you come up here, I apologize for not saying, just tell me your name and your address for the record.
Oh.
And no, I forgot to say, it's fine. And then just a reminder, there will be 3 minutes to speak for everyone, so if you can keep track of the time for me, just make sure we can stay on track. So, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Sherry Warren, my address is 1312 County Road 909 here in Joshua. First, I'd like to begin, I would like to request a traffic report and an accident report from Eddy Street to Collector Road 909 to County Road 1022 and County Road 1022 to County Road 917 at the intersection light of County Road 1902, Farm Market Road 1902. I would like to address the safety of the road conditions on the Collector Road, County Road 909. 909 County Road, Collector Road 909 is not a very safe road to travel on. To add 300 more cars to this road makes it that much more dangerous. East of 1023 at 909 is okay, but it dead ends to Eddy Street and there is a 90 degree curve, that is dangerous. I know there has been accidents on that curve, and I know some recently that have been happening on that curve. I know there also on west on 909 from County Road 1023 through 1022, the road narrows to where 2 cars can barely pass each other safely. Either you have to stop on the side of the road, pull over as far as you can. You have shrubbery, trees, brush, and everything else on one side, so you almost can't get off on the road on that one side. So actually I had been hit, my mirror has been taken off because someone couldn't judge their distance. At the S curve between the 2 oak trees on Collector Road 909, there is only 15 feet wide in between the 2 oak trees at the S curve. When there's a school bus picking up kids or dropping off kids, if any large vehicle going down Collector Road 909, there is no room for your car in the bus. At the intersection of Collector Road 909 and 1022 is unsafe to turn at the stop sign. When you're at the stop sign on Collector Road 909, if you're turning on 909, you're gonna have to let the person at the stop sign turn before the other person can come in. Or vice versa. If you're going to 1022 from the stop sign on 909, there's so much shrubbery, you're almost in the middle of the road to make sure you're safe to turn left or right. Then, if all these 300 cars that they're gonna add from the 155 houses, they're gonna either be going to the toll road, Laughlin Middle School, going west on 909. There's another dangerous intersection, which is County Road 1022 and 917. And due to that turn, if you're turning left, there's only a few feet, well, there's more than a few feet, but there's not much room to turn left because there's a light at the intersection of 1902 and 909, 1023 right there. Or 1022, sorry, wrong street. But yes, and also I wanted to add that we never did receive notification of this hearing. We live 2 houses away from the property. It's less than 200 yards and we never received any notification. I found out because somebody posted it on Facebook. Our concerns with the flooding also in that area.
If you could wrap it up, you got your 3 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, then I'm good then. I'm
That's
good.
fine. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rodney Warren.
I have pictures, I don't know, Can I give pictures to any of y'all for reference?
Your name again, sir?
So Rodney Warren, 1312 County Road 909. I'm going to address the flooding. On this proposal, it talks about a holding pond and how the water is going to exit to the east of 1200. My question is, what happens with all the water entering on the west side of 1200? We have over 100 acres west of us that flows right north of us off of J. Novacek's pastures and land. We have 20 acres right due west of us that flows right across my land. And the bar ditch of 909, which flows down. Once it gets to my property of 1312, our property leans away from the roadway. So the ditch terminates on my property, cuts across my front yard, cuts across my neighbor's front yard, and which there's a picture there of it leaving my neighbor's yard flooded. That's where it enters onto 1200, which would be approximately at lot 47 on the proposed plan. And so there's no way, if that land gets built up anyway at all, where's the water go? Because right now that's called an unnamed creek. And I see no proposal on what happens with this creek. All of a sudden the creek disappears on this proposal. There's two stock ponds directly north of us. That's part of this unmanned creek. And you got lots 44 and 45 on this proposal that just back right up against the stock pond with no, once this water leaves the stock pond, where does it go? So 1312, 1308, 1304, and 1300 are all in jeopardy of flooding if all of a sudden if you alter this natural waterway in any way. So that's my concern there. I don't know if there's some type of study that can be done or what can be done there. Because like I said, if typically on lots like this, they dig in the roads, they build up the paths, which it's a low area, so they're definitely going to build it up. Once they build it up, we're in a bathtub, plain and simple. That's my concern on that.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mary Steed.
I'm Mary Jo Steed. I'm from 1304 County Road 909. And I guess mine is more of an aesthetic appeal, and maybe it was should have been addressed to the developer instead of the planning department. But since we received the notice for this hearing, my emotions have ranged from shock to anger and heartbreaking sadness. This proposed development that your paperwork refers to as part of a dream is a nightmare for myself and my husband, as we are among those immediately impacted by it. Don't think that we are fooled by all the pretty descriptions of the great things you are doing for the community. It is plain to see that the real motivation is your unbridled desire to bring in the greatest amount of money from the available space, regardless of the impact to the surrounding property owners or the potential new residents. This is defined in the development plan where it states, quote, larger homes at greater numbers increase the property tax collected by the city, as well as the sales tax collected by businesses providing services to new residents. This statement tells everyone that the leadership of Joshua has their vision and direction for where Joshua needs to go. And the citizens, whether old or new, are just pawns in the plan. We are probably deceiving ourselves when we think that we may have, when we think that they may be listening to our lamentations and protestations. After all, we were only notified of this hearing because it is required by law. But that being said, here are my comments about the Joshua Highlands Development Project. The pros, none foreseen at this time. The cons, grossly overcrowded residential neighborhood, noise pollution, light pollution, extreme addition of traffic to area, increased potential for crime and vandalism, possible risk that water supply will be inadequate, increased taxes on our property without real added marketability enhancement, added flooding risk due to restricted drainage, and I found out that it's stated in the site inventory that, quote, the area does not have any areas prone to flooding And after development will also not have any flood-prone areas, end quote. And I can personally attest to the fact that the bottom portion of the property can be covered with water after a large rain. And perhaps the biggest drawback is the loss of the natural beauty and tranquility of our surroundings. I challenge the owner and planning committee members and council members that if you think this is really such a wonderful type of development, why don't you put it in your backyard? If people wanted to live in a big city, they would have stayed there. And I close with some thoughts from a paraphrase music from John Prine. It's titled Paradise. It says, the land developer came with monster machines. They scraped and cut the land and buried it forever. Well, they filled their coffers with money and the land was forsaken. Then they wrote it all down as the progress of man. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eric Moss.
Yes, online.
Yeah, I'm actually, excuse me, in favor of the project. I work with Courtney and we represent the developer. The only thing I was going to add was that the future land use plan was one of the things that we looked at when we created this development. We wanted to make sure that it fit that, and it appears to me that it does. I'm just available for any questions that you might have.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all the forms I have. Is there anybody else here that was wishing to speak tonight? Okay, yes, sir. All right, take my form. Did I think? Oh, yeah.
My name is Alan Burton, and I live at 1236 County Road 909, and I concur with Ms. Halens and Mrs. Steve about the conditions of the road and of the flooding. There's been times when it has rained so hard that the water is backed up to within about 20 feet of my back door, and it's about 200 feet wide at that point. And it definitely looks like a river. And also, the road in front of my house, it has never been improved. They come through once a year and just put a little bit of asphalt in the hose. And the asphalt is probably only about 2 inches thick at that point. So whenever it gets muddy, it just tears it right up, almost like a mud road. And besides that, we moved there in 1980. And one of the main reasons is because it's such a beautiful and quiet place to be. My wife loved it out there. She'd really be upset right now if she knew what was happening. She died here about in 2019. And if she were here, she'd be standing out in front of the bulldozer. I know that I'd also lose an oak tree if they had to widen the road, a 100-year-old oak tree. And one time they came out to trim that tree because some big, large trucks would hit limbs on it, and she ran out there. And pardon my French, she gave them hell until they left and they never come back again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Could I address the flooding? Just
And
1 minute?
in just a minute, we'll discuss the flooding as well. We'll get to that discussion in just a little bit. Was there anybody else here that wished to speak that I don't know tonight?
Okay, my name is Gina Lewis and I live at 1025 County Road 909. And I just wanted to say that I have lived in Joshua my entire life. And this property that I live on was actually my grandparents before I moved onto that property. And I agree with everything everybody has said. If you have not driven down 909, you really need to go drive down it, because they're being nice by saying two cars can barely pass, two cars cannot pass. I drive a Suburban, and I mean, I guess that's my fault for driving a big car, but you know, everybody drives trucks and stuff like that, and you cannot have two vehicles pass from 1022 to 1023, and especially in that area. I also would like to remind everyone of the general, you know, I mean, yes, they're kids, to whoever said they're a kid that's drive up and down that road. And, you know, just last week, there was a child that passed away on that road. And I just feel like that, again, everything that said, people move to Joshua because they want to be away from the city, but close enough to be accessible to the city. And we have a really good thing going on right now, and I really don't want to have it messed up. I mean, just for my own personal preference, because that is pretty much across the street from me. And though I live on the hill and don't really have a problem with the flooding, because the water from my house probably goes to walls, and I'm sorry, but it is going to be, I know it stands in water over there. Just, it doesn't even have to rain that terribly hard for it to do so. I know there's progress to be made. I know there's money to be made off of that. I don't really fault anyone for that, but the infrastructure is absolutely horrible. There's, you know, and I also want to know who's going to pay to have the roads fixed. Is the taxpayers going to have to pay for this? Who's doing the sewer? You know, the water line isn't big enough to accommodate everyone, but the sewer, we are all on our own septic tanks. And you know, how are we gonna, who's gonna accommodate that? And we don't really want to pay for overcrowding in our own neighborhood. That's all I gotta say. So thank you for letting me talk. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? It's time for the owner's rebuttal. They will get up and address anything that was said tonight.
I don't have a whole lot to say, maybe just some background information for some of the things. We have been in touch with electricity folks. One of their main lines goes right through this area. They have the infrastructure in place or the plans in place to serve something of this size. I can't speak to the power outage. I know lots of people in lots of places were out of power. Trespassing, I don't even know how you address trespassing. People trespass when they want to trespass, whether it's a neighborhood or not. But on these specifically, as the PD states, every house will have a 6-foot fence on its property line. So you're gonna have to scale a 6-foot fence, which is more than the barbed wire fence that's out there in that area at this point. Same thing with the lots backing up to the neighbor's properties. All of those lots will be, you know, fenced off. So there will definitely be a separation between this development and the existing property that's there that is key, that type of thing. As far as the improvements on the site, well, let's hit flooding first. Chatted with the engineer about that. We discussed this. City's requirements are that we don't flood. Right? So if that means that we catch the water on the east side, pipe it through to the west side where it goes, catch it in the detention pond, slow it down so it comes out at the same or lower rate than it's currently sitting, then that's the requirement. And that's what we have to do. We fully intend on doing that. We're not asking for variances from requirements on infrastructure or subdivision ordinance. The water supply, there was included in your package a letter from Johnson County Sub that it's been modeled, and they say there's plenty there for this amount. Same thing with the wastewater. They've got room for wastewater, and we've made provisions that we know that we're going to have to take wastewater somewhere. There are several options to it, but it's not septic, and it will be going somewhere with it, and those provisions have been looked. The flood prone areas, there are always areas that have some standing water. This will probably actually tighten those up and get them to flow out. But the information given is based on any kind of FEMA information that can be saying, all right, these are considered flood hazard areas. And that's where it was. There are no FEMA floodplains on this piece of property. The developers, as far as the infrastructure and improvement, the developer has to pay for their part. They don't just get it, come in and sit on a place and hope for the city to pay for it or the existing residents. So the part that they give in, then that's the part that they have to work for. So the improvements of the road 909 in front have that part to begin with, that they have to provide. If there's other things that are their responsibility, then they're responsible for it. We're not asking for existing residents to pay for sewer or water or flooding, anything in that. As far as improving 909, when that'll happen, I don't know. We heard from a gentleman that it was, or from a young lady that it was unsafe, and from another gentleman that you can't cut the trees down. So some of those things are outside of anything we can do as a developer to make it happen. But 100 and some odd lots in this area certainly provide the type of funding necessary to improve that kind of infrastructure that right now I think would probably improve if Joshua had that kind of money currently. It's not the greatest road in Joshua. Other than that, if you don't have any other questions, then please cover it off.
Can we answer one of your questions? No, we cannot have any deliberation during the public hearing, but we'll have to move on to discussion, and we'll have some discussion at that time. So. All right, thank you, everybody. I appreciate y'all showing up tonight and providing us some input. We'll close this public hearing at 7:06. And we'll move on to E, which is to discuss, consider, and possible action regarding making a recommendation to the city council regarding a request to rezone a tract of land of the Eli M. Thompson survey of tract number 827 TR52 County of Johnson, Texas, of being approximately 46.04 acres of land and locally known as 1200 County Road 909, changing the zoning to the foregoing property from agricultural to the planned development district to allow for a residential subdivision. So this is our time where we can discuss some of these things, or if any of the commissioners have any questions, want to clarify anything regarding what was heard tonight. Starting off, just so we know, this tonight is just the request for the rezone. Obviously, I know we've had some issues dealing with drainage in all parts of Joshua with any subdivision coming up. And as this is said, our engineer has to go through and address any flooding that is done. So those details that we're asking for tonight are not here. They'll be part of the final plat should it come to that. At which point we'll have an engineer telling us where the water's going to go, how fast it's going to go, and provide all that detail to make sure that it's not going on any adjacent property as they do that development. So just on that aspect of flooding, addressing the traffic study, I'm pretty sure that if you were to go to the police department, or probably contact Alice, she could direct you to who to get a traffic study, or the number of accidents, or any of that information that's open to public record, where you could do a search there just for the information that you requested on that. We don't have that handy tonight, but they can provide it to you for traffic studies or any information that is available. Just an open record request should be able to get you what's available. So, did any other members up here want to have anything to say or discussions in regards to this, or have a chance to look over the development? Anything else that I haven't addressed yet?
I think my biggest concern, I wasn't here for some of the other developments similar to this, is but I was part, and it came in at the very beginning, tail end of us changing, revamped our entire planning and zoning ordinances. I did my best to get up to speed on it. And I just question why we have that plan, why we have those minimum guidelines for it. I understand that we do have some variances that we do allow, but to me, this is kind of like the price of admission is we're just asking for this amount of frontage, this amount of square feet, and for someone to come in and say, well, we like what you guys spend all this time and energy on setting these minimum standards, and we're just gonna hack 20% off of that. It's kind of like, well, that's the price of admission in Joshua, right? So it left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth personally. So.
I have to agree with that same statement.
Anybody? else?
May I just say one short thing?
What's that?
It wouldn't be so bad if they just wouldn't pack it up like logs stacked together. I mean, I drove through Joshua Meadows where I think several of you live, and it's nice. It's rainy, spacious, they got some green areas. You know, feel like you just got to hold your elbows in when you walk outside. Why couldn't it have been something like that? I mean, still heartbreaking, but
No, yeah, thank you very much. What is the future land use? What was this? What do we have what was out there for the future land use on it?
It's designated as R1.
It is designated as R1. Okay, so what we did is, as a city, a long time ago, designate our future growth as a city, that this area would be designated as R1, which is what this zoning request is for this planned development. Now, again, with the variations that were discussed as well, the smaller lots. But that is what, as the city grows, that this is what is going to be considered, where the house is going to go, where's commercial going to go. And when I speak to the future land use, that's available online for anyone to be able to see what the land is designated to be going forward. So when the zoning request example, that's future use of residents out in this area and so forth and so on. So this is what was designated to be residential homes, and this developer is coming in asking that, given what the city's plan was in the future, that this is what they're doing.
so it really was Joshua's plan to move that direction. So I really did direct my comments to the wrong place. So who made the first approach?
I don't mean to cut you off, but we can't open up for deliberation, or if we get down that road, we could be here for a long time tonight. So, is there anything else? Any other discussion? Any other questions for city staff or anything else?
The 909 issue is kind of bothering me a bit. The road that we're discussing, that obviously is a problem. We can't just ignore that. Sure, it sounds like, is it going to ever be fixed? Is it one of those things open-ended that on when it's going to be fixed? Or is it part of the developers? Well, you mentioned that, but I don't know. It just seems like it's going to be a real burden on everybody, people living there, people to drive in a situation where you can't.
Well, and I'll agree on that, and I'll say this, that I think any city staff would also agree that the roads in Joshua need a lot of work.
No.
And unfortunately, the roads in Joshua are not cheap. The roads anywhere are not cheap. So being able to figure out how to pay for that is a concern. Growth in Joshua is inevitable. It's going to happen.
But it's a safety factor.
So it is a safety factor, and I'm not advocating with the other. My point is in order for us to be able to improve the roads, whether it's 909, Stadium, any road that doesn't belong to TxDOT, somebody has to pay for it. And in asking for future residents that are coming up, more houses coming up to help that burden of that cost, that's how we help them improve growth and improve streets. Asking the residents to pay for it that are here, it's a big chunk. I think, I can't tell the numbers, but the last bond study that that was going through, millions of dollars cover a very small portion of one road. And that's a lot of taxes to increase for the residents currently paying, to the point where it's going to be so expensive to live in Joshua. What are you going to do? So just keep that in mind as well. To answer your question, how are we going to pay for it? It is a safety concern. You know, I've been on that road. I understand that. And to improve that road, somebody has to pay for it. So that's the $1 million question: who wants to pay for it? Don't know that answer. So
Can I add one thing to that?
not at this time. Let's continue our deliberation. I apologize for cutting anybody off tonight, but let the commissioners have their options to continue on forward with this. So.
I agree with you, Brent, and I also agree with Commissioner Bowman. I mean, I run 1022, 909, 1023 just about once a week. I mean, I run those roads, so I know how close they are, close calls. But I also agree that which comes first, chicken or the egg, when it comes to improving that.
Were there any other new developments that have requested a variance from 75 to 60, not necessarily that, but smaller frontage.
Yeah, like you stated, Highland Meadows, that's the one that we,
Off 917,
right.
the one's coming out.
Well, no, actually, south of County Road 909. It's right across the road from this development.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of similar.
Highland Meadows is a different one, and there was half acre lots and it didn't have certain variances.
Oh.
Cattle Road.
Cattle.
Cattle Road has a bunch of 60 by 120 lots, and then the one off of whatever Main Street that comes by the D-bats or what that spot that I know you guys have had drainage problems with. Those guys are all 60.
Wildwood.
Oh, wow.
What is that? What is Wildwood?
They're all, that's what we made.
It's our own name.
Sorry, I'm not supposed to be deliberating, but I can use fire.
That's just
what we-
factual information. I was just curious if
That's what we
what
made.
other sizes.
Right, I think they're, yeah, those are also smaller lots also.
That's what we based our stuff on, was those companies.
Well, I guess the question I'm with you is by what does it benefit? More houses, more taxes, also more burden on the infrastructure for the streets as well. What does it benefit the city for smaller lots compared to a larger lot, which I think is what some of the concerns are with some of the commissioners up here. So I guess what are the benefits other than more houses, which equates to more money for everyone? Other than more traffic on the road, more concerns for the citizens that live around there now. That's I guess a lot of the concerns I'm getting from this board tonight is why are we going from 75 to 60? Even though what's present in other areas of town, is it safe on this road compared to where it is in other parts of towns? Can those roads handle that? Some more traffic. Okay. Anything else? Did you consider, I'm sure you did, running other, I know your feasibility for your house is going back to 75, is that even an option?
We're at it, and it came out as not really doing it then today.
How many homes would be in 75?
About 110.
They go down about 45.
But the issue with lot frontage is roads are expensive. And so the narrower, like if you get a narrower lot on there, then you're able to build the same amount of road that is horribly expensive for a little bit smaller lot. And so the per lot, which then goes on to the home builder, home buyer, is drastically reduced because all of the infrastructure to develop it would have been the same as it is a larger lot.
You know how much these homes are going to average price wise? Yeah.
Was to base it on current trends, I have 2,200 square foot by about 150. So starting at 350 and going up.
Thanks, sir. Anything else? Then I will, I guess, entertain a motion to take any action regarding this item. The reason for this meeting. So if no action is taken, what bring back?
I would
or
have to
it's
do,
gonna go? I'm sorry.
I would have to do some research
Okay.
on that one.
All right, we will, I guess, for just a little bit table that, if you want to.
Okay, if you want to, now if you table it, are we going to do it by motion to the
Well, I
next
guess,
meeting or?
right, if we don't take any action motion was made, then what do we need to do? Before we move forward?
I would have to check on that one. Can y'all go to the next item? or-
That's what I'm saying, is I
Yeah.
don't take, I don't want to use the table, if we skip it, and come back to it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. We will come back to that one in just a minute. We're gonna move on to conduct the public hearing, and I'll open that hearing at 7:20. In regards to a 1.858 acre tract of land located at the northwest corner of Jones Street and Highway 174, locally known as 952 South Broadway Street. George Caslin survey, abstract number 173, to change from a C1 restricted commercial district to the planned development district associated detailed site plan for a restaurant with a drive-through. Aaron?
The preliminary plan of Joshua Station addition was approved in 2008. The subject property is referred to as Lot 4 as per the approved preliminary plat and will be platted as such. The property is located within the Joshua Station overlay district. And as properties develop, they need to have a planned development designation and detailed site plan approved prior to construction. Currently, this property is zoned C1 restricted commercial. The proposed development of this property is to allow for a fast food restaurant with a drive-through service for a McDonald's. The proposed building will be 4,500 square feet. The requirements of the detailed site plan include specific information related to engineering such as drainage and other transportation related issues. Per section 10.7.10 of the subdivision ordinance, a traffic impact analysis is required when the number of average daily trips exceeds 1,000. Because the number of average daily trips for this project exceeds 1,000, the TIA is required. The TIA may be submitted within the final plat and plans. However, the applicant will be responsible for making any changes to the site plan recommended by the traffic analysis. Because this property requires to be final platted, the city has agreed that these matters be part of the final platting review process.
Good. Thanks, Aaron. Was there an owner present for this property here tonight? Yes. Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Billy Tolson.
My family has owned this property since 2007, known as Joshua Station. We're very, very happy to finally bring some fast food restaurants closer to home so that we don't have to drive 5 miles to the north, 5 miles to the south. So as Mr. Maldonado just mentioned, this has had the correct zoning for commercial use, restaurant use. And because we're in the overlay district, it's a little bit of a formality to fit in everything that Joshua wants for that site. And so far we have complied with all the requirements to effectuate that. And as Mr. Maldonado stated, the site plan will be the last step. Mentioned the traffic impact, which we will have done, and we are allowed to submit in conjunction with the site plan at a later time.
Thank you. Is there anybody here that wants to speak in favor? Anybody here that wants to speak against? Okay. All right. I'll close that public hearing at 7:23. And move on to G, excuse me. Discuss, consider impossible action on the 1.858 acre tract of land located in the northwest corner of Jones Street and Highway 174, locally known as 952 South Broadway Street. George Caslin survey, abstract number 173, to change from C1 residential restricted commercial district to the planned development district and associated detailed site plan with a restaurant with a drive-through. So this is real similar to the last two that have come through here. Anybody else have any questions or see anything on site plan? No. So we'll still be waiting for the final plat to come through on this as well. And I will entertain a motion on this.
Motion approved.
Second. And a motion by Commissioner Sears and second by Baldwin. All those in favor? Yes.
Okay, sir, if there's no action, it basically kills it. The developer can refile, we would have to start back over public notices,
Okay.
to start back over, or you have the option to postpone it to the next meeting, which basically is just tabling it, but no other requirements like public notices or anything like that's required.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, before we head on back, let's go ahead and come back to this one then. So if this is something, does the table require a vote?
Yes, if you want to postpone it, we use the word postpone it. We need a motion to postpone it to the May 3rd, which is our next meeting. We actually have the date in the motion,
Or if no action is taken.
then it kills it.
Okay.
Unless there's something new filed.
I prefer you guys if you're to do a motion one way or denial or approval so that we can move somewhere. If it's the council, great. If it's not, great.
Will this go to the council? Or does it have to, will that come to one or the other, right?
Right, I mean, these are your options. And when I talk to the city attorney, now you do have the right to make a motion to deny it
Right.
or approve it,
Right.
and then go into the next step, but
Well, in that case, then I will give the options provided by the city secretary. I'll open up, entertain another motion.
I'll make a motion to deny, please.
A motion to deny. by Commissioner Jenkins,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Sears. I'll take the vote.
What's that?
I'll take to a vote, so if you want to vote for anyone.
But what are we voting for?
They say they made a motion to deny
Oh, okay, we'll vote to
this.
approve the denial.
Yeah, I had a motion and a second to deny it, and then ask for a vote.
Okay.
The vote carries two. Okay, all those again, oh, so I'm sorry, you're voting to deny.
Mhm.
Okay. All right,
what was your vote?
I'm voting against it.
Okay.
I'm not denying.
Right.
I'm not, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Was that a unanimous denial?
No, it's 5-1. Or 6-1, excuse me.
Who voted for it or not
I voted
against,
I voted against it.
against it? Okay.
All right, we'll head on to letter H. And we, I believe you're out of the office, just real quick. The public hearing for the site plan for the restaurant was opened at 7:20, closed at 7:23.
Thank you.
All right, so for letter H, public hearing will open again at 7:28. And this is regarding the amendment to the thoroughfare master plan containing the 2016 comprehensive plan by removing the existing 2-lane collector roadway from State Highway 174 to County Road 1023 and designating County Road 904 west of State Highway 174 to 2-lane collector roadway.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Since I was not here on item G, was there a vote on that one?
Yes, it was motion to approve the list.
Appreciate your motion.
See, Scott?
Okay, the thoroughfare plan was last updated in 2016, and it's obvious that provision must be made for changing the regulations as conditions change or new conditions arise. Otherwise, zoning will be confined and a detriment to a community and certain assets. Periodic revision is essential if the ordinance is to establish and maintain a rational land use pattern. In this case, the 2-lane collector road is causing difficulty developing the area as the proposed road crosses multiple tracts of land. The city is proposing to realign the 2-lane collector road downward to County Road 904.
Okay. Is there any, we're not discussing? Do we just need to close the public hearing?
That's correct.
Okay, that's fine. 7:29, I will close this public hearing. And we'll move on to the last item here. Let's discuss, consider, and possible action on the amendment to the thoroughfare master plan contained in the 2016 comprehensive plan By removing the existing two-lane collector roadway from State Highway 174 to County Road 1023, and designating County Road 904 west of State Highway 174 as a two-lane collector roadway. So are there any questions, discussions on that?
What's the, all right, explain to me two-lane collector road, why we're changing it from 1023, which is one of the streets we were talking about with our previous. We're gonna further develop Indian Heads Road, is that correct?
Well, there's been some questions about this particular parcel of land that the collector road or the proposed collector road is running through. And so it's affecting his site plan layout of the area. And so it's, city staff thinks that it could just be realigned to County Road 904, and it still crosses into 1023. So there would still be enough roadway for this
Essentially
area.
getting rid of this road.
So essentially eliminating 1023, closing it.
No. The C2U, it's the dotted pink or what is it, rose color?
We'll call it purple.
Purple. Yes, we're eliminating that road.
Okay.
I think it's the very last handout.
Is that page 44?
It's the last one. I put X's through it. There's like 4 X's. That's the one that we want to realign down to County Road 904.
That, the one with the 4 axes on it, that road does not exist.
Right, it doesn't, no, it's a proposed.
Oh, it's a proposed.
Proposed future road.
Okay,
So are there improvements going to be made to 904 then?
Yes, that's really, that's the whole purpose of realigning it back down to 904.
I see. So we're no longer building this road, we're just putting the effort into 904 instead.
Right.
okay. And that's to accommodate for future development
Right.
in the area.
In the area.
And that road would not be required for that development. There's 904 would be the main feeder.
Right.
Okay.
But is that wagon wheel, that's that little?
Yeah, the one that goes down the
That's
center.
not affected by this. it looks like.
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Any other questions, concerns? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we amend the thoroughfare master plan to remove the existing 200 collector road from State Highway 174 to County Road 1023 and designate 904 as the new collector road.
A motion to accept, second. Second by Commissioner Mulder. All those in favor? Was that?
There you go.
There it is. All right. Carried unanimous. All right, I guess with that, we will adjourn at 7:33. Thank y'all.